What is up, guys? TJP Predictions here, and I'm back with another bracketology update from last week. Not a lot of changes, big changes in my top four seeds. Obviously, my biggest change you'll see is in the East bracket, but let's just start off with the South bracket. As you can see, I still have Baylor number one. I think I added Louisville as a number two seed. That could be the change. Florida State's still a three. West Virginia was a three last week, but after a big loss to Oklahoma, they fall pretty far into my seeding in my top 16. I think I have them at like 15 now, and they were like number 9. But Marquette sitting at 17-7 on the year. Just came off of a close loss on the road to Seton Hall. Honestly, that doesn't really hurt them. That's why I had them, I believe, moving up. Houston moves up to a 6. Iowa 17-8 on the year. They'll be my 7 seed, and then 8-9. I have Wisconsin, Wichita State. Wichita State didn't really fall, even though they just came off of, I think, a home loss last Saturday. But I don't really think that hurts them that much because a lot of bubble teams lost, including Arkansas. Arkansas, man, they just keep losing. The reason why I have them at a 10 seed is because of the injuries. They've had, I think, a total of 4 scholarship athletes injured in the past 4 weeks. It is different than football. Obviously, if you have 4 players in football, it's the next man up. But when you have 4 scholarship athletes out of 12 to 15 possible scholarship athletes in basketball, it's a lot. So, and I expect the committee to look at that as well. But then you have Indiana finally beat somebody. They were on a losing streak. I have them dropping to an 11 seed, but still in. And then 12 through 16, Liberty, still a 12 seed, in my opinion. Louisiana Tech, 13 seed. Little Rock, I believe, moved up 1, even though they did lose on the road earlier in the week. Murray State fell 1, I believe. They lost a road game to Austin Peay. That's a big loss for Murray State. They dropped in the NET rankings by, I think, 15. And then are playing winner North Carolina Central and Robert Morris. So that's really it for the South bracket. Not a lot has changed. But now let's go on to the East bracket. Okay, in my East region, I have a new number 1 seed, and that is San Diego State. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really think it's fair to put San Diego State in the East region. But because their first 2 rounds are in, I believe, Spokane or Sacramento, that's why I believe people are going to put them in the East. But let's say they win those games, they're going to have to be playing in New York. But since the committee released the top 16, like I said before, I would have to agree with it. But once again, I don't really think it's fair. We'll see what San Diego State will do. But their NET rankings are still pretty high, and they're still undefeated. Let's see what they can do for the remainder of the season. But I still have Auburn as a 2 seed. Kind of ridiculous not to have them as a top 3 seed at this point. I mean, they have some great wins, beating Kentucky, LSU, on the road against Arkansas. Even beating New Mexico at that point in time, that was a pretty good win. Beating Richmond, that's a good win. Some other good teams they beat. 2 losses. They avenged 1 against Alabama. Yes, it was in overtime, but a win's a win. But moving on, 3 seed Seton Hall. I had them fall just a little bit. I think they're my highest number 3 seed. Another great win against Marquette, who I think is a top 20 team. And the Seton Hall is going to be a really tough team to beat in March. I'm telling you that now. They'll be a sleeper pick, especially if they're in the East. If they can get the Sweet 16 playing in New York, look out. And then number 4 seed, how about Penn State? Kind of a surprising team. I knew they would be a little bit better, but yeah, beating Michigan State on the road was 100% impressive, man. That was a much-needed road win for Penn State. Penn State didn't really have a lot of road wins, but that was a big one. How about Creighton at 19-6 on the year as my 5 seed? Man, you guys have to start paying attention to Creighton. They got some tough guards. Their guards are playing really, really well, shooting a 3-ball. I think in the past 4 games, they've shot over, 45% from 3? I think that's true. But moving on, 6 seed LSU at 18-6. They fall a bit. I mean, you lost to Vanderbilt. That just kills your NET ranking, and that's a quad 3 loss. Yeah, that's not good for LSU's sake. They fell quite a bit. Rutgers, another team. Rutgers has 1 true road win, but that's to Northwestern. Let's just be honest here. That's not a true road win. Rutgers is in need of road wins, and they'll start jumping back up. St. Mary's at 20-6 on the year, coming off a loss, I believe, to Pacific. Another questionable loss for them. I think that's a quadrant 2 loss because they were on the road. But yeah, how about Florida, 15-9 on the year? I'm gonna be honest with you, Florida. I have them at a 9 seed. I understand 15-9. They went 1-1 these past 2 weeks, I think. I understand you're probably like, why are they a 9 seed? Well, a lot of these bubble teams lost over the weeks. If you've noticed that, a lot of these bubble teams went 0-2 since last Friday. So Florida went 1-1. Florida got another road win. Just keep winning, Florida. I think Florida had a tough schedule. That has to come into account. But yeah, I have Florida as a 9 seed, a little bit higher on Florida than a lot of other people, but a lot of bubble teams have fallen. Speaking of bubble teams, Virginia, 16-7 on the year. Quietly going up in the seeds. Virginia, defensively, obviously great. They need to find, and here comes a road win. They need to find some more road wins. They beat Notre Dame, though. That was at home. They need to find a couple more good quality wins, and I think they're for surely being. Cincinnati jumping into mind. They just lost on Sunday, and then they won a big game, a bubble. 2 bubble teams went on it yesterday on Thursday night. They won that in overtime against Memphis. What a big win that one. That was at home. But here are my last 2 teams in. Mississippi State at 15-9 on the season. Lost to Ole Miss by 25. That just kills. That kills your NET score, and it also hurts you in confidence level. That was a big loss. Purdue 14-11 on the year. I didn't have them in. They got another big win. Then they lost to Penn State. It is what it is, but you're still barely in, hanging on. Then you have your 13, Yale, not coming up. Colgate, 20-6 on the year. They keep winning. Winthrop, 18-9 on the year, and then UC Irvine. So that's really it for the East. How about we go to the Midwest? Okay, I'm going to tell you this right now. I had Duke falling out of the 1 seed, and it's not because they lost. They didn't lose. They had a great quality win. I just think that going on the road against West Virginia is just a little bit better than beating Florida State at home. 2 great teams, I know. It is what it is. I have Kansas as my number 1 seed and Duke my number 2. You can argue it, but just looking at Duke's loss, Stephen F. Austin at the time, that was just a bad loss, quadrant 3 loss. Looking at it now, Stephen F. Austin might be better than you think, but still, it's Duke. Come on now. And that's another deciding factor. How about Maryland, 3 seed? They got a big game this Saturday on the road. Maryland's won some tough games on the road now since I said they didn't have any road wins. I mean, they did, but not big road wins. They got to play Michigan State. We'll see how that goes. Villanova, my number 4 seed. I believe they would be playing this game in New York, or Albany, sorry. And then I have Michigan State as a 5 seed. Yeah, Michigan State finally got a win. Beat Illinois on the road. Another road win, pretty big. But yeah. Texas Tech, another big win. for Texas Tech, beating another ranked team, beating West Virginia. And then they destroy Texas. I mean, they destroy. I think the final was 88-42. Yeah, Texas Tech is starting to look really, really good. See if they can keep it up. Arizona 17-7 on the year. The Pac-12. People got to start watching the Pac-12, man. Yes, it's late at night on the East Coast where I'm at, but come on now. It's kind of fun watching some of these Pac-12. The Pac-12 is wide open. That's a fun conference. We'll be talking about potential bid stealers. I'm not going to spoil it, but later on, the Pac-12 will be fun in March in the conference tournament. Anyway, moving on. BYU 20-7 on the year. They went up a seed, I believe. They just keep winning. Can they beat Gonzaga? I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think so. I think Gonzaga is just too good. But anyway, they would have to play Rhode Island. Rhode Island coming off a loss to Dayton. I don't really think that hurts them. Yes, you don't get that quality win that you want on the road, but look at these other teams. We'll talk about bubble teams later on in this video. Rhode Island, they've been winning before that Dayton game. I expect them to continue with Fats Russell dominating that A-10, beating some pretty good teams in there as well. But moving on, Northern Iowa, 22-3 on the year. Keep winning. They had that big game against Drake. That was a huge game. I believe they won by 10. Pretty close game until the end there, but that was a big, big win for Northern Iowa. See if they can keep winning. Like I said, they're a 10 seed right now. If they win out, maybe lose their championship game in the conference and tournament, I think they're in. I hate to say it for bubble teams, but I think they're in. That's a potential bid stealer we'll talk about later as well in another video. But here is my another group of last four teams playing in a play-in game. Arizona State came out of nowhere, winning, I think, 6 in a row, something crazy like that. And ETSU, you can't hate this team. East Tennessee State is pretty fun to watch. They have some nice forwards in their guard play. I do miss Alonzo from last season, but I mean, this is just a great team to watch. I really like watching ETSU. Speaking of Southern Conference, I have Foreman at a 12 seed, 21-5 on the year. Sophomore and junior team, another odd team to watch. But moving on, out of the American East, Vermont, 20-6 on the year. 14 seed, I have Wright State, 21-4 on the year. 15 seed, I have Bowling Green. They've lost 2 in a row since I told you how good they were. So it is what it is. Hopefully I didn't jinx them. But anyway, Texas Southern, 10-13 on the year. Ugh. They had a tough non-conference, though. They had the toughest non-conference in the country, believe it or not. Look it up. I was shocked as well. And then that's really it in this Midwest. Let's go get to the West region. Okay, finally in the West region, I have my number 1 overall seed, Gonzaga, 25-1 on the year. This team just keeps surprising. How about they beat St. Mary's by 30 on the road? I had somebody tell me, oh, they expected that. No, Gonzaga was a 5-point road favorite, and they won by 30 with a not so healthy Killian Tilly. He played well, but I mean, this overall Gonzaga just keeps getting better and better per the week. Look out for Gonzaga. And how about Dayton as my number 2 seed in this bracket? This would be a fun bracket. I'm not even gonna lie. This region looks pretty interesting. You have Dayton 22-2 on the year. How about Butler at a 3 seed? Man, Butler, another big win at home. You edged out Providence the other day. How about Kentucky, 19-5, 4 seed? I would love to move Kentucky up to a 3, but I mean, just look at the other 3 seeds. Compare them to Kentucky. Look at that resume. Any team might disagree with me, but like I said, other factors go into it. How about Oregon? Oregon, Colorado, 5-6. Oregon won that game last night. Came back and beat Colorado. I mean, how many comeback wins does Oregon have? It's just ridiculous. It's interesting as well. I think they have 6, believe it or not. It's crazy. But how about my 7 seed moving up from a 9 last week, Ohio State. Ohio State, they beat Indiana on Saturday, and then they didn't beat Indiana. They had another big win, and then I believe they lost the game. But Ohio State, I mean, just an odd team. Let's just be honest here. What'd they go, like 10-1 in non-conference? Conference play, I think they're 6-7, so they must have. Yeah, so okay, they did go 10-1. But see what the Wesson brothers can do. Caleb Wesson, obviously a big postman. He's been playing really, really well. See if Ohio State can be more consistent. Then they would move up to that 4 or 5 line, or maybe 5 or 6. I like them at a 7 right now, maybe 7 or 8. Speaking of 8, let's go 8 and 9. USC 18-7 on the year, coming off a loss last night to Arizona State. I was a little bit, or they didn't lose Arizona State. They lost Arizona State on Saturday, I believe, and then they beat Utah, I believe, or maybe it was Cal. I don't know, but it was a much-needed win because they can't afford another quad 3 loss. Xavier, man, did y'all see Xavier last Saturday? How about Xavier's just climbing on to this? They did lose on the road on Tuesday, but come on, you can't hate this team. This is a senior-led group of guys. 4 seniors. They start, I believe. Gooden, Paul Scruggs, 2 guards at top, and then how about that true freshman guard? He's been shooting a 3 pretty well. Anyway, moving on. Oklahoma joins us back. Oklahoma won the last 2 games. I mean, they destroyed West Virginia. Oklahoma, I'm actually surprised. They've looked pretty well these couple of games. Can they keep it up? That's a big question mark. How about Michigan at 11 seed? I know I'm not high on Michigan. Yes, they have wins against Gonzaga. They beat North Carolina. At that time, that was a good win. But consistency is key in my opinion. I don't like 15-9 for Michigan, and they finally beat Michigan State. They beat Northwestern. Congratulations! Wow, what a win! But that Michigan State game was huge for them. If they didn't win that game, I don't know if we would see Michigan. Let's see if they can get hot like they usually do in the middle to end February. But anyway, our last couple seeds here, Stephen F. Austin, 12 seeds still. It could be moving up soon. I mean, they have no good games left. I think they play all teams that have losing records. You just can't lose a game there. New Mexico State. I can't wait till Queen comes back, and then this New Mexico State team is going to shock everybody. I'm worried. If I'm a team that has to play New Mexico State, I'd be worried, especially after last year against Auburn. But anyway, moving on. Hofstra out of the Colonial, 19-7. South Dakota State out of the Summit. Just lost a game, I believe, at home. But it is what it is. And then finally, Montana at 15-10 from the Big Sky. They don't move anywhere. So that's my bracket. Next, let's move on to the bubble. This is one of the most important things, at least in my opinion, noticing the bubble. But yeah, let's go see the bubble. All right, we are doing the bubble now, and let's start with the last 4 byes list. And I have Virginia as my last 10 seed, and 16-7 on the year. Got lucky that a lot of these bubble teams lost. That's why they went a little higher. Michigan beat Michigan State. That's probably the biggest thing they could have done, and avoided a very, very bad loss against Northwestern. So they went 2-0 since last Friday, which was huge. Highest 11 seed. Then we have Indiana, 16-8 on the year. They fell quite a bit. They were 16-6, I believe, when we did this last week, and they've lost 2 in a row. Or no, they were 15-7. They finally beat Iowa on Thursday. They looked really good in that game, but once again, it's a home game. Indiana needs to find some road wins. How about Cincinnati? How about a comeback win against Memphis at home? Last night, that was pretty big. They lost at Connecticut in overtime. That's not actually a bad loss. It's a quad 2 loss. Yeah, Connecticut is struggling, but if you look at the NET rankings, Connecticut is better than the record indicates. Last 4 in. ETSU 22-4 on the year. ETSU, look, all you have to do is keep winning. Your schedule remaining is not as tough as all these bubble teams. So you got to keep winning. No really excuses here. Arizona State at 16-8 on the year. They came out of nowhere. They seem to be winning games and beating some good teams. Beat USC. That's another good win there. But let's see what they could do towards the end of the year. Mississippi State at 15-9. Purdue at 14-11. Mississippi State has a big game tomorrow against Arkansas. That is a potential win. If Mississippi State wins, Arkansas loses, then I think Arkansas could find a way to fall out. But if Mississippi State loses, they're probably going to fall out as well. So maybe the loser falls out, winner stays in, goes up a bit. That's that's probably one of the biggest bubble games there is tomorrow. First 4 out. My first team out is Utah State. They've won some games against some not so great teams in a row. They're 0-2 against San Diego State. They lost to Boise State. And maybe the Boise State game, it was their worst loss. But they really don't have any terrible losses, in my opinion, at least. So we'll see what they can do in the future. Stanford been losing. I think this is their 3rd game in a row. That's not good for Stanford. I'm surprised. I really am. I thought Stanford was one of the better teams in the Pac-12 now, but I don't know now. We'll see. How about NC State at 16-8 on the year, climbing up a bit. They've been winning games. Like I said, the ACC is tough. It's not as tough as usual, but I think they have a lot of bubble teams. You'll see once we get towards the end of this list. And then finally, as my last first 4 out list, it's VCU. I mean, what a bad loss at home to George Mason. That really kills them. That is a bad loss. Yes, George Mason, they have a winning record, but their NET ranking says otherwise. That's not good for VCU. That really killed them. I'm surprised they lost that game. Next 4 out, I got Memphis, 17-7 on the year. Injuries and James Wiseman out. That's the reason why they're not as... I mean, Memphis is one of the most talented teams in the country, at least in my opinion. And they're 17-7. We'll see what they could do for the end of the year, but I'm disappointed. Richmond, 18-6. This is a sleeper team. I'm telling you, once they get their point guard back, Richmond might be the best. Might be second best in their conference. Dayton's probably the best, but I would be really, really worried in the A-10 once their senior point guard comes back. Tennessee, can't sleep on Tennessee, 14-10 on the year. I'm going to be honest with you. I think these past 2 weeks, Tennessee's probably played their best basketball. It has resulted in, I think, a 2-2 record. But, hey, wins are wins. They couldn't beat Kentucky, which does sting, but we'll see what they can do. And finally, Georgetown at 14-10. Georgetown's been winning some games. Once again, I think if Georgetown had those 2 players that got suspended, well, they left the team because I think they were going to get suspended, but they left the team. This would be a different Georgetown team. But Georgetown is loaded. Patrick Ewing has gotten this team back where I thought they would be. They've been winning some games. You need to find a road win, Georgetown. And not just 1, maybe 2, maybe even 3. You did come from behind and beat St. John's. Congratulations. But there's some bigger fish to fry in the Big East. You got to start finding bigger wins. All right, and then let's go on to the other part of my bubble. The teams that are still alive, I got Tulsa at 16-8. Non-conference was terrible for Tulsa, but in conference they found a way to maybe get themselves back into it. I think they're still alive. Lost to UConn a couple nights ago. Wasn't really close, but hey, Tulsa, if you keep winning, beating some of these better AAC teams, you have a chance. But how about St. Louis, 17-7 on the year? Again, couldn't beat Dayton. That was a big, big game. Unfortunately, it is what it is. But St. Louis, your season is not over yet. If you can maybe find a way to finish the year 23, and if you finish the year 23-7, regular season as is, that would be amazing. But you really, St. Louis, you have one more game for error, and that has to be against Richmond. If you were to lose, you're gonna have to beat somebody though. But we'll see what your senior leadership can do at the guard position. How about Ole Miss? Now, a lot of people are probably, well, why is Ole Miss here and is still alive and not the barely alive? Ole Miss is 5-11 versus Quadrant 1 and Quadrant 2 teams. That means they have no bad loss. So Ole Miss is in a better spot than most of the teams below them. If they could, continue what they're doing, I mean, they've been dominating some SEC teams, some middle to average SEC teams. Beat Florida by almost 20, beat Mississippi State by 25, have a big win against Georgia. I mean, this team has potential to be a tournament team. Can they get a road win? Road wins mean a lot in bracketology. It helps the committee formulate a better overall of the team, and it just means more. Road wins mean more in this day and age. Yes, you can beat a home team, and you can beat if you beat a top 25 team at home, the committee might actually rather have a top 35 win on the road. Just saying. But Texas 14-10, they are probably the least alive out of the still alive list. But look who else they have on that schedule. I believe they play Kansas again. They play Oklahoma again. The top half of the Big 12 they play again. Maybe Texas can get there. Alabama 13-11. They had a key opportunity against Auburn, couldn't get it done. Once again, there are a lot of bubble teams in the SEC, so they can start, if they start winning, knocking them out, that'll be good. Notre Dame 15-9, came out of nowhere, had a 3-game win streak, lose to Virginia. They don't really have any notable bad losses either. They just don't have a good win. We'll see what they can do. St. John's coming off a big home win against Providence. I mean, that could be a season turnaround. We'll see what they could do. St. John's has a win against Arizona. That's a big win. They beat DePaul, Providence, and have another Big East win. Minnesota 12-11 on the year. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's borderline criminal to put Minnesota in, even in the first 4 out. I understand you can put them on the next 4 out list, but guys, this is a team that has barely has a winning record. They have a 1 game above a winning record. Plus Minnesota, they're in 12th place in the Big Ten. I understand, but let's just see. I mean, they beat Ohio State at home mid to late December. I guess that was a great win at the time. I believe it was a top 5 win. But I just can't. I mean, this team is very inconsistent. They'll beat a team by 20 points one night, lose to another by 30. It's hard to understand Minnesota. Yeah, I love your center, Okokru, I believe is his name. But and I like Carr, the Pitt transfer. Man, that kid's playing really, really well. But yeah, Minnesota, you need to start winning games. You can't finish the year. Let's say you finish 16-15. How is that good enough? I don't even care who you beat. That should not be good enough because you have some easy games coming up ahead. Well, not easy, but I mean, I believe you still play Nebraska and Northwestern. So hopefully those are 2 wins, but we'll see. Oregon State 15-9 on the year. How about Oregon State coming out of nowhere? Another team, I believe they have one bad loss to Cal. We'll see UNCG 20-6 in the year. Another Southern team you can't forget about. Utah. How about that win against Kentucky? You can't forget about that. All right, now let's go to the barely alive list. SMU 17-6 on the year. They don't have any good wins. Pitt. Man, Pitt, you let yourself down losing to Clemson by 20 points. That may have just killed your bubble hopes. But you do play Virginia Tech tomorrow. That's a road one. You need to win that game. Pitt, that's an elimination game, by the way. If Pitt or Virginia Tech lose, one of those, the loser is eliminated. Unfortunately, NET says so. The amount of losses Pitt has. I mean, Pitt, you have quadrant 3 and 4 losses. Man, you lost 2 quad 3 games. You just lost one Wednesday night. And you lost to Nicholls State at home, man. That's a quad 4 loss, Pitt. You're barely on this list. A lot of these other teams, how about Miami? Barely alive. Oklahoma State, barely alive. Providence, barely alive. I mean, how many quad 3 losses do they have? Duquesne, no good wins. Same with Virginia Tech. You got to win against Michigan State, but you're on a 6-game losing streak. TCU, no good wins. DePaul, losing streak. Washington State, inconsistency. So there you go. I did want to point out something real quick about the NET rankings before I go. Pittsburgh was, I believe, 73rd in the NET before Wednesday. Clemson was 95th, I want to say. Clemson jumped up 23 NET ranks and Pitt fell about 20. This is how, it's flawed. Let's just be honest here. How does that happen? That doesn't make any sense. How Pitt would fall 20 ranks and then Clemson would jump up, but it is what it is. But that's really it for this video, guys. I know it's long, but I really wanted to show you my bubble and my thoughts of each bubble team, or at least try to. Let us know what you think. Am I missing some teams on this bubble list? Maybe. Do I have a team way too high, way too low? Please let us know, and please subscribe to SG1 Sports, and make sure you like and comment on this video. And thank you guys. Have a good one.